Well, hi, I'm Jeff Strong. I'm creator of the Auditory Brain Stimulation Therapy Rhythmic Entrainment Intervention. I'm also co-founder and creative director of BrainShiftRadio.com. In this video, I want to talk about polymeter. I've talked about polyrhythms before. In the last video, I talked a little bit about the ceremonial rhythms that kind of became the basis for the rhythms that I use for REI. How I took the ceremonial polyrhythms, the different instruments that are playing the rhythms, and turned it into a rhythm played on one drum. And then how I use that as a basis to improvise and kind of make variations on. And in this video, I want to talk a little bit about another concept of complexity called polymeter. Now, polymeter is an interesting thing in that you've got two very different meters going on instead of just two rhythms, two or more rhythms. So polyrhythm, for instance, with ceremonial rhythm, you've got three different drum parts playing three different rhythms with different orchestrations. But each of those rhythms are in the same basic meter, basic pulse. So for instance, I could be playing in 4/4 time. So 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and maybe my rhythm would be like this. And another rhythm may sound like this. And another one may be like this. But they're all in 4/4 time. You can tap your foot. Their ones and the twos and the threes and the fours are all in sync all the time. That's a polyrhythm. Different rhythms happening, but they're all in the same meter. Polymeter means that you've got two different pulses going on at once. And it can be kind of fun to play around with that as an individual drummer. You know, when we play by ourselves, and most of my students are wanting to learn how to do drum healing, therapeutic drumming by playing for other people, not necessarily playing in a drum circle or playing with other drummers. I do cover some ceremonial drumming in my courses, but really what I'm looking at is taking that concept of multiple drums and bringing it down to a single drum. And this is really common. As a matter of fact, the drum set that you find today in most popular music is basically an instrument that came out of multiple drummers playing at once, and then only having one drummer to be able to fill all those parts. So you've got the bass drum playing what would be considered maybe the tuba part, or the cymbal playing a bell part, or whatever. The idea was that you took 4 or 5 drummers and brought them onto one player being able to play on the drum set. We're going to do a similar kind of thing with hand drums here. The African-based hand drumming is all ensemble-based. You'll have 4 or 5 different parts going on at a time, maybe multiple drummers for each part, but basically 4 or 5 parts generally. And if you're playing by yourself, you want to still have a positive impact by playing alone. So I create composite rhythms, and I talked about this in my last video, where I take the different parts, I take the important pieces of those parts and turn it into one particular rhythm. One single rhythm be played by a person. Then I can grow from there. If we're going to be using this to play for somebody or to be used therapeutically, we're then going to learn how to improvise around that, to play musically around that composite rhythm. Another thing we can do is polymeter. Now, polymeter, like I said, is two or more different meters happening at the same time. I started this video playing a 7/3 polymeter, which is really cool. So you've got a pulse of 7 happening at the same time a pulse of 3 is happening. I'll play that for you in a minute, but I want to first play a really simple one, something that you can do even if you're just a beginner drummer, and that's 2 against 3. So 2 against 3 means I'm going to be playing 2 beats in one hand, in the amount of time it takes 3 beats in the other hand. So I'll start off by playing the 3 here. I'll play, maybe 3 or 4 beats per second, and then I'll bring the 2 in. So you can hear how that just has a different pulse that's slower. But the ones will be in the same place. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. So the ones will always be in sync. The 2s and the 3s will be wherever they have to be to make sure the ones are in sync. So 2/3 sounds like this. It's a pretty easy one to play. Basically, the idea here is that You're looking at the common denominator between these two to be able to create the vision of how you're going to play it. In this case, it's going to be the multiplier of these, and this would be 6. So I can think of it in this way. I'll be playing every other beat, then every third beat to equal my 3 and 6 and 2 and 6. Does that make sense? So if I'm playing with a denominator of 6, and I want to put 3 beats in there, it's basically playing on the 1, the 3, and the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That gives me my 3. Here, with the 2, I'm going to be doing every third beat, and so I'll be playing here on the 1 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that gives me the 2 pulse within that 6-beat setup. If I count it that way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's the idea. To speed it up a little bit, it's kind of cool. So if you're listening, and this is where it gets really interesting, is that as a listener, you can focus your attention either on the 3 or the 2, and that it's a different feel for you. As a matter of fact, in my Drumming the Chakras course, I use this variation on a 7th chakra rhythm. A 7th chakra rhythm, it basically is a rhythm I call a flirta. Which is counted 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3. And if you look at it, it actually has a 2, 3 fit into it. It could go like this: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of cool when you listen to it, and especially if you're meditating to it, because you can focus your attention back and forth between 3 and 2.